Hey everybody, today I want to show you that music has its own puns. We're going to take German 6/5 and show that it can be reinterpreted as a dominant seventh. And we can do the reverse. We can take a dominant seventh chord and then reinterpret it as a German 6/5 because they have exactly the same sound. It's how you use them, their context, that makes all the difference. All right, let me share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, I want to go to our plan for today, covering musical puns, enharmonic reinterpretation of the German 6/5 as a 5/7, or vice versa. Now, a pun, it's the humorous use of a sound that has multiple meanings. My example here is the sound night, which could play out as two different words. Night as in a time of day, or a night around King Arthur's round table. Two very different meanings for one sound. Here's an example. Question: why was King Arthur's army too tired to fight? Answer: they had too many sleepless nights. I keep thinking, several years ago, I was on the phone with my mom, who at the time used to live in Oregon, far away. And so we're on the phone, and she told me this poem by Ogden Nash that has always stuck with me. I never looked it up. It just stuck. I don't know why. It's catchy, I guess. Like a tune you can't get rid of, right? So it goes like this. There was a young lady from Glass who had quite a remarkable ass. Not round and pink, as you probably think, but was gray, had long ears, and ate grass. So there's a pun. Now, if you've been reading your King James version of the Bible, then it's like, what's the big deal? But some of you might be shocked and appalled. What? Did I really hear that? So what's going on here is we've got this sound, and it all depends on context. What does this mean? Could it really be in the context of woman? When you hear there was a young lady from Glass, so when you hear lady and then this word pops up, well, in that context, I'm thinking that's a body part. What just happened? Am I really elite? Okay, so then you get a little more context though when it says actually it's something else. Gray, long ears, and so on, so that we get a different context. And with that context, here, you can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. So we got this one sound, and with the context of a woman, we think of a body part. And with gray, long ears, we start to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is an animal. So this word can be taken in the sound, can go very different directions. It can mean one word, can mean another word. It has very different meanings. One sound, multiple meanings. I got to share with you a pun that I made up, okay? So this is all about a beaver. This beaver had been looking for just the right tree for so long that when he finally found it, he gnawed it off. Now, that gnawed it off thing can mean, yeah, jumping, or it could mean, when you're falling asleep. So nodding off is one sound, but with multiple meanings. That's a pun. Music has the same possibility with this German 6/5 dominant seventh relationship. Same sound, different meanings. It's all about how we set it up. So if we set up a context where we hear G minor as our tonic, then when I hear this sound, and we need our sharp 4, which is C sharp. I don't like the way this is voiced here. So let me do this. I'm just going to put this in this part. And my left hand will pick it up, and I'll put my C sharp up there. Okay, so in this context, once I set up that G minor, when I hear this sound, I'm going to think German 6/5. Okay, so here's the sound of it. And I expect that to resolve like that. Listen. I expect it to get to the dominant through my cadential 6/4, just as you heard. That's my expectation. Quick review. You need your sharp 4 in your flat 6 to wedge out by half-step motion. That's step 1. Step 2 in the resolution, after hanging on to these notes, the other two, they both move down by step as it shows here. Get your leading tone in there. Chordal fifth. Now you have D, F sharp A. We've got the dominant. Remember that leading tone. That's the thing we often forget. But it's two-step process. You get your tendency tones resolved, then hang on to these and resolve them later. All right. Notice the resolution. That's key. That's part of how we know that that's really serving as a German 6/5. The resolution of that augmented 6 outward by half step. Now, if I want to rethink this chord and have you reinterpret it so that now I'm going to say, okay, in G minor, yes, that's that, but I want you to rethink it as a dominant 7th. We're going to respell it so that it looks like that. Okay, so I have E flat, B flat, G, and now I'm going to take this note, the augmented 6, and I'm going to say scratch that spelling and give its enharmonic equivalent. I want the same sound, but spelled differently. Now, why do I want to do that? Because I want it to be the 7th of the chord. This augmented 6 is exactly the same sound as this minor 7th. But once it's a minor 7th, I can see that it's E flat, G, B flat, D flat. In other words, I can make it look like an E flat 7 chord, a dominant 7th. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to not only spell it this way, but I want to resolve it this way. I'll only hear that it's a dominant 7th if I resolve it as such. Now, the crucial thing is what I do with that note. It's going to sound like a minor 7th because of how I resolve it. Okay, so what do minor 7ths do? 7ths of chords in general, they step down. They resolve down by step. So this needs to go here. Look what it used to do. It went up, right? So now it's going in exactly the opposite direction by step. Okay, now if this is truly a dominant 7th, that's 5 in some key, and I want to get to its 1. So E flat is 5 in the key of A flat. Now I know where I'm headed. There's my root, and there's my 3rd, and I just need to flesh out the chord. So let's put another A flat here, and I'm going to drop down so I can bring in the chordal 5th there. As you know, in an inner voice, the leading tone can come down, and so I'll do that. I can drop down a 3rd there. Okay, so now I've respelled this C sharp as a D flat, make it look like the 7th and the dominant 7th, and then go ahead and resolve it in that way, and it takes me somewhere brand new. So I was in G. So that when I hear this sound, I expect it to do this. Now, I'm going to take that same sound and go there. Now think about what that is. If I'm in G originally, G minor, and I go to A flat, that's the Neapolitan. So I'm going up a half step. My key center has moved up. My tonic has moved up 1/2 step, and that puts me in the key of the Neapolitan, or flat 2. Wow, that's quite a distance to travel. Yeah, so neat. A distant modulation through this enharmonic root. Very cool. This is a pun. One sound with 2 different meanings to it, depending on how you set it up and how you resolve it. Now be aware, you can do the flip of this. You can just say, all right, I'm going to take a dominant 7th and I'm going to reinterpret it as a German 6/5. Let's try that out next. Okay, so let's say we're in some other key here. So E minor maybe. Ooh, that's gonna be a while. Okay, now, or E major, right? It doesn't really matter. We'll go with E minor. All right, so if I'm in E minor and I have, now I'm gonna use a dominant seventh. I could use any dominant seventh I like, but I'm gonna use the dominant seventh of 4 because the 5/7 of 4 is a very common thing to reinterpret as a German 6/5. And you'll see the net result of it is going to be to take us up a major third. You expect to go to 4 and you come just shy of it. You're a half step below. Whereas the other process, where you started with the German and reinterpret it as a dominant, that takes you down a half step. So they do just the opposite effects. All right, so we're not going to land on 4. We're actually going to end up on 3, the major third away. That's where we'll head. But the main thing I want you to see is that we can do the other thing. We can take a 7th and make it the augmented 6 in this German 6/5. Okay, so let's get this down. 5/7 of 4 is basically a tonic major triad. Let's just stack it up like that. Okay, so E, G sharp, B, D is 5/7 of 4, 5 of A minor. Okay, now we're going to take this D, the 7th of the chord, scratch it and say, let's rewrite it. Now, I don't want it to look like something lowered. I want it to look like something that I had to raise to get to that. So if I want that same sound enharmonically, I need to replace it with a C double sharp, okay? Respell it as something with sharp, something raised. All right, now I've got my minor 7th transformed into an augmented 6th. Okay, now what I need to do is resolve it by half steps outward, that wedging out. So if that's flat 6 in the key of G sharp, okay, so we need to pull this down a half step, and let's do that by taking it to D sharp. And the C sharp, double sharp, has to go up a half step as well. So that takes us to here, D sharp. All right, that's the first step. I need to take my 2 tendency tones, the 2 notes of the augmented 6, and bring them outward to an octave like this, which is scale degree 5 in G sharp. Major or minor, doesn't really matter. Now, the next step, so that was step 1, get the tendency tones resolved. We hang on to these 2 notes and then pull them down as well. But they're going to have to form a major triad to make the 5 happen. So I need D sharp, F double sharp. Man, but I've picked the worst key, I guess. It works. Okay, so what we need is D sharp, F double sharp, A sharp, and then we have the major chord that we need on 5 to make this new key pop out at us. Okay, and we could resolve it and all, but you get the idea. We can take a dominant 7th of something, or the one in the key, and then reinterpret it as a German 6/5 if we just say, hey, forget about treating that as a 7th. Instead, think of it as an augmented 6, and we can respell it as we did, and then have it go up instead of down. Treat it as if it were sharp 4, and then boom, you're there. So again, a musical pun. You think it's one thing and you do another. Okay, now I want to show you a couple examples of this. So let me share my screen with you. All right, and let's go to a couple examples that you'll find over here. We'll start with this one. All right, I hope you'll take a listen to this. I've got it available for you. And here's the time when you should start it. That's 2 minutes, 32 seconds into the track. And then when you get to measure 40, you're going to get a 1/6, go into a 2/6, and you can tell, you know where that's going to go, right? It's usually a predominant. 2 is usually predominant. Here it heads to the 5 in the bass, but there's some embellishment. You can see the 6/4, 5/3 motion going on up above there. So here's your cadential 6/4 going to a 5-7, see the 7th in the chord there, D, F sharp, A, and C. And of course it goes to 1. So here's your 1, G major, GBD. All right, and now he's going to make quite a shift because there's motion in a new key here, F sharp in the bass, going to B. Okay, so let's see how he gets there. It's all going on in this measure and how he resolves into that measure. All right, let's see how this works. So this chord right here, let me download that and then I can write on it. Okay, so I'm going to put in a text box here so we can write some of this stuff in there. I'll pull that. Wow, that's small. Let me make that big. There we are. Okay, now we went to a 5. There's a cadential 6/4. I won't write all that. And then we went to 1. But for speed, I'm just going to provide Roman numerals here. Let's stretch that out so we got plenty of room. Okay, so we got our 5. Then we go to our 1, all in G. This, as I mentioned here in this little box, the F sharp is a passing tone that moves down to a new chord tone here, the E sharp. Now, when you hear this, so let me just play. So you got your left hand. That sounds like a 7th, right? You don't know how it's spelled, but often the composer will spell it in the way that it resolves, and that's exactly what's going on here. So you hear it at first as adding a 7th of a chord in there. In other words, we get 5 of 4, but it does not resolve that way. Instead, we launch out into a new key. We notice that there's motion 5 to 1 in B. So what happens is it becomes a German 6/5 in the new key. Let's move this down here. There we go. Now notice how it happens. So let me see if I can draw some of this in here. Here's a resolution. It's not resolving as the 7th of the chord. It's not going down, it's going up to this F sharp. And this G here is going down into another F sharp. So that's the wedging going on, the half-step motion out, the distinctive resolution of an augmented 6 interval. Okay, and it's got, in terms of the new key, you could think of it as flat 6, and there's the 3, flat 3, sharp 4, and where's our B, our 1? There it is right there. Yeah, so we got all the content of a German 6/5 for the new key, which is B. All right, and then I won't write all these in, but you can see there's motion here, B down to A sharp, D sharp down to C sharp. Yeah, these are the motion 6/4, 5/3, a cadential 6/4. So we're getting the dominant here. And then, as we noticed, our new tonic 1. This is magic. It's just a gorgeous moment. So listen to it and just hear how it's like this revelation. You go to this new place. Beautiful moment, very expressive. Check it out. I hope you enjoy it. Let me just point you to one more of these. Again, I'll go back to what's available to you on Moodle. And let's see, I missed this one. Let's go to this one. This is Beethoven, Rage Over a Lost Penny. So here's a lot of anxiety and craziness, all for a lost penny. So it's overwrought. Again, you've got a time when you can start into the recording, so take a listen to it and see what happens. I just want you to, I want to direct your attention down to this spot. So we are in G, and here's your flat 6. I'm going to go right to it. Flat 6 in the bass, and there's your sharp 4, and they're going to resolve. C sharp up to D, yes, and E flat down to there, that D. And you do have a third above the bass. See, I mean a fifth above the bass. It's a scale degree 3, flat 3, but However you think about it, as flat 3 or as an interval from the bass, a perfect fifth. Either way, it's the German 6/5, and it's resolving into my 5 here. Interesting that he's able to avoid parallel fifths because he just takes all these inner voices up. So this is unusual in that it does not use a cadential 6/4, but goes right into the 5. But now, look at how he's respelled things over here. Now this, so this is 67, 68, 69, 169. We have exactly the same notes as here, except for some respelling. Notice the F sharp is now a D flat. There's your cue. He's now making it an E flat 7 chord, spelling it as such and resolving it as such, so that this comes down even as this goes here and so on. So my E flat is no longer flat 6. It's becoming 5 in the new key of A flat. And remember what we said. We wrote this one out, didn't we? By accident. But we have in the beginning, we're in G, and by the end, we're in the key of A flat, which is just up a half step, the Neapolitan, right? We're moving to the flat 2 or the Neapolitan key, just as you expect. So when you take a German 6/5 and reinterpret it as a 5/7, it will, and you resolve that 5/7, it will take you to the Neapolitan key. All right, I hope you enjoy these. I hope you get a good listen to each of these examples and more. Enjoy them all.